Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. And we did our pricing video a couple days ago, and on that video we talked about the first appearance of Harley Quinn, Batman Adventures 12, going for $1,799 in the CGC 9.8. So obviously a super expensive first appearance, mega key essentially, but it did get me thinking about some Harley Quinn issues that are a little bit more affordable. That would still be good investment grade books, and I think I have two here that really fit that criteria. I think they are investment grade books, and they're basically affordable and cheap enough even for maybe a broke millennial with like a part-time job that you could still save up a couple $100 and grab these issues. So yeah, we'll get right into it. And as I said, Batman Adventures 12 is just getting so expensive right now. So thinking about some alternatives for Harley Quinn fans out there in the CGC 9.8. First up we have Detective 737, and these two issues I'm going to be talking about today, they are essentially the first appearances of Harley Quinn in the normal Detective and Batman comics. So obviously like the Alex Ross one-off Harley Quinn book came out, and that's the first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC continuity. But I really think these two books are a little bit underappreciated. They do sort of have, kind of love or hate covers. 570, obviously I think that cover is probably a little bit more love or hate, with this one being pretty cool. I've heard, some collectors not really liking Batman 570 that much. But Detective 737, so let's just take a look at it on the CGC census. So there are only 36 of these in the CGC 9.8. And of all graded copies of Detective 737, 31% are 9.8s. And I think the reason for that, being only 36, I thought there'd be a lot more. And I do think the reason for that is because this is a 1999 comic. So right at this time, you're kind of in the depths, I would say, of the comic book recession of sort of the late 90s, early thousands, before the superhero movies just started coming out, long and strong. Comic books were kind of in the shitter during that period. This comic, coming out late 1999. But this one is the first appearance of Harley Quinn. And having only 36 copies on the census really surprised me and kind of made me actually want to do this video. And we'll notice on the next comic that comic as well has less than 100 copies. And as I said, for a first appearance of Harley Quinn in Detective, first appearance of Harley Quinn in Batman, I think over time they will continue to be keys, continue to be sought after. But having less than 100 copies, I think, in anything in the CGC 9.8 that's somewhat of a key, I think are, in general, really good buys, especially if you're a Harley Quinn fan. So, talking about prices too with these issues, obviously the main Harley Quinn issues, Batman Adventures 12 we talked about last week, went for $1,799. There's also Batman Adventures Mad Love, is the origin of Harley Quinn. I'd honestly, if Batman Adventures 12 was out of your budget, Batman Adventures Mad Love is the one I would recommend. Has an amazing cover. Even if you bought an ungraded copy, that would be cool too. But in the 9.8 Mad Love, yeah, we'll usually go around that $400 mark. Maybe a little over that, a little bit less than that depending on the auction. Buy it nows with Mad Love are, certainly getting up there into the $500-600 even more. But okay, just talking about the prices on these because, as the video title says, even if you're a broke millennial, I think you can be pretty disciplined, and if you have a part-time job, and you could still save up and afford these issues. Detective 737, with only 36 in the world and a 9.8, you can find them for sort of, around maybe a little bit below $150 US. Yeah, that's pretty much about what I paid for this one. A little bit more, I think it was. these are issues that I, really kind of caught my eye when they first came out, but I wasn't too into comic book collecting around this time. Started to get out of it a little bit more. So, but these always caught my eye. So, No Man's Land, the series, and just the, these early Harley Quinn covers in DC continuity. And, this issue being about $100, $570 being a little bit more, we'll get into that one. But as far as the first appearance of Harley Quinn in the DC continuity, the Alex Ross one-off book, personally, I'm not, I know there's a lot of big Alex Ross fans out there. I'm not a big painted cover guy. And just in general, I'm not even really an Alex Ross fan, to be honest. I think certainly, some of the Immortal Hulk covers he's been doing lately are really cool. But, personally for me, about, I would say over half of his covers I just don't get excited about at all. Some of the painted covers they just don't look as good to me. Again, I think some of the Immortal Hulk covers that he's been doing though lately are really cool. So Detective 737, only 36 in the 9.8, for about $150. Maybe it's getting up there a little bit more. Being there's only 36 in the world, it's probably pretty hard to find in a decent price. So this is one you might have to hunt down, whereas some of the buy it nows I bet are about 200 or over. But you could probably get this for about $150 if you can find a 1 week auction. Which would be tough, so you really got to hunt these down with only 36 in the 9.8s. But again, to have a 1 of 36 item for only about $150 US, being that this is the first appearance of Harley Quinn in Detective Comics, I think that's a really good value proposition, basically. So Detective 737, the other one I will recommend is Batman 570, and these kind of go hand in hand too, which is cool. This one, the first appearance of Harley Quinn in the Batman series, and yeah, this is the Code Part 1, and this is Part 2 here. This issue generally a little bit more expensive than this one over here. Just looking on the CGC census before we get into prices for this one, there are 72 of these in the world in the CGC 9.8. And out of all CGC copies, 41% are 9.8s. So 41% are 9.8s, 31% in this one are 9.8s. And this one being a little bit cheaper, and there's less of them, and 31% to 41%, I think this one's probably the buy out of the two. But they do they go well together as well, being that it's the Code Part 1 and Code Part 2. This issue, but to have only 72 in the world, I think, any comic book where there's under 100 copies and it's still somewhat of a key issue, I think are pretty great buys. And, being that me particularly not the biggest Alex Ross fan, I think would be a pretty good alternative buy, if you maybe didn't want to go with the first Harley Quinn in DC continuity, is to basically get both of these, because then both of these issues have less than 100 copies in the CGC 9.8. You can get 2 of these issues for probably about the same price, maybe even less, I would say, than that Alex Ross first appearance of Harley Quinn. And personally, I just think these 2 are cooler. And then, if you still want to buy Harley Quinn comics, certainly I would recommend Batman Adventures Mad Love, and then Batman Adventures 12. And even Batman Adventures number 28 is the second appearance of Harley Quinn, and that has a pretty cool cover too. Even the Batman Adventures 28 in the CGC 9.8 is one that I wouldn't mind purchasing, actually, at a really good price. And I think, even the more I think about it, I do kind of want to add another Mega Key to my collection as well. And I think Batman Adventures 12 is really, that's kind of the whole thing about these comics, with Batman Adventures 12 and these comics. They're somewhat coming down in price from, being really hot, I would say, about 2 years ago. So I think just the market conditions in general are good to buy Harley Quinn comics right now. And if you are, like I said, a broke millennial, or, you're strapped for cash, but, if you do have that part-time job or whatever, you could still be pretty disciplined and save up a couple $100 and afford these issues. And yeah, I think right now, Harley Quinn, not super hot. I would imagine too, within the next year or 2 or 3, there's going to be some Batman movie with Harley Quinn in it as well, or Suicide Squad movie, whatever it might be. So not going to be cold and on the low forever. Harley Quinn. There's she's certainly going to get hot again at some point. So I think right now the market conditions are really good to buy any type of Harley Quinn comic. These ones are really good if you're looking for an affordable investment grade books. The other ones I'd recommend, again, Batman Adventures Mad Love. A nice rough copy of that, it's about around $100, a little bit over sometimes, for a decent rough copy of that. I think that's a really good buy. That's one of my favorite Harley Quinn issues, is that Mad Love, the origin of Harley Quinn. And even Batman Adventures 12, if that's in your price range, I think right now is a really good time to buy a Batman Adventures 12. And yeah, as we did on our price video last week, one sold for $1,800, and that's a couple $100 less than Amazing Spider-Man 300 First Venom. And I think that's getting into a fair price, because Batman Adventures 12 doesn't look as good as Amazing Spider-Man 300 on the CGC census, but still an iconic first appearance of Harley Quinn. And I think that's actually a perfect price for it, like $300-400 less than First Venom, Amazing Spider-Man 300 in the 9.8s, which generally goes for about $2,000. So if you can find a Batman Adventures 12 for like $1,700-ish, I think that is a really good deal. And that's a little bit less than I think some of them have went for, and certainly a year or 2 ago they were really hot, and you had a lot of buy it nows going for well over $2,000. So for a lot of reasons, I think it's a good time right now to buy Harley Quinn issues. But for these 2 issues, they're sort of underappreciated, sort of underfollowed. Both of these 9.8s have less than 100 copies on the CGC census, which is something I always really like to see, especially when you're thinking about investment grade books. A lot of investment grade books, usually they're key issues, and they all have at least 400, 500, 600 issues, certainly some of them if they're well-known key issues. But these are still sort of somewhat under the radar. You're looking at about $150 for this one. If you get a good price, maybe a little bit more. For this issue, probably about $250, $200 to $250. There's buy it nows on this issue that are $350 to $450 too. So again, watch out for those buy it nows, because there's less than 100 copies. There's not going to be just ones popping up every week. So these ones, yeah, if you do want to hunt them down for those rock bottom prices, you'll probably have to be pretty patient. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you know what? Again, whenever you can grab books where there's less than 100 of them on the census, like these 2 are, for not even $200 maybe, I think that those are really good buys. And yeah, in general, right now, I think Harley Quinn comics are buyable. There is no, certainly, like I said, 2 years ago was Harley Quinn was so hot, the hottest thing basically in comic books. And I think everything's slowing down now to a really sort of a quiet level, and a level that I think is pretty safe to buy and invest in the books. So you can get a good price, because as I said, I think 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it might be, Harley Quinn is not going to be sort of having low hype for a really long time. So I think it's a good time to buy Harley Quinn issues, especially these 2 issues. So yeah, I would totally recommend to maybe hunt these ones down if you're a big Harley Quinn fan. And yeah, again, keep in mind Mad Love, and then there's Batman Adventures 12 for the first appearance of Harley Quinn. Batman Adventures 28 is the other one I would recommend. If you're a big Harley Quinn fan and you want to get into some Harley Quinn books, now I think is a really good time to buy. But yeah, thanks so much for checking out the video today, guys. Yeah, and I was just I was looking on the census for some of the books I had. I bought these, I think it was early last year, probably had them a little bit longer than a year. And yeah, I didn't realize that they had less than 100 of these on the census. And I think it has a little bit to do with obviously being in 1999. The comic book market at that time was in a bit of a recession, I would say. Just the printing copies at that point were coming down hard, and as well as sales. And the superhero movie sort of Hollywood thing didn't quite kick in yet until about 2003, I would say. So yeah, and you can find kind of some cool opportunities around these sort of 1999, 2000 books. And you know, one like Batman Beyond #1 in the first print is one of my favorite issues to buy from this era. And there's just over 100 of those on the CGC census. There's about 120 something, I believe. But Batman Beyond #1, such an iconic first appearance, Batman Beyond and Terry McGinnis. I think that, and I've done videos on that, and maybe it's about time I do another one. I think Batman Beyond #1 in the first print, CGC 9.8, is going to be a really good investment because, again, in that 1999, 2000 area, not a lot of books were printed, so there's never going to be like a ton of copies of those. And again, first Terry McGinnis, first Batman Beyond, I think is going to do really well over time. But also these, I think, will do really well over time. Less than 100 of them on the CGC census. Almost can't go wrong. But thanks so much for watching the video today, guys. If you haven't already, please join the team and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, right now we're kicking on about 150 subscribers, and the channel's been going on for about a month and a half. So I think that's a pretty decent start, and really happy with the response from everyone, and can't wait to share some more ideas with you, more of my collection. So subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for the notifications, and stick around for all that. But thank you very much for watching today, and I will see you on the next video.